We'll let these last couple people join us, and then we'll get started this morning. Okay, so I have about 17 after. We're going to get started. I am Gina Sudan, the president of the Wyoming County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today with Holly Thakavich for our Restart, Rebound, Rebuild series. And we are marketing your restart this morning with Cole Creative. Holly, tell us a little bit about Cole Creative and about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to spend and kick off this Monday morning with everybody. As Gina mentioned, my name is Holly Thakavich. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Cole Creative, which is a creative agency located in downtown Wilkes-Barre, right on Public Square. We're in the art of storytelling, and we do that through a variety of different services creatively, whether it be website design and development, just general design and brand development, social media management, as well as video storytelling and services.
Great. And Holly is the Chief Executive Officer there at Cole Creative. And they also, little side bit, they did our chamber website recently last year. They redesigned that for us and did a great job with the videos that are all up on there and some other videos for the county that you'll see throughout our website. So thank you to Holly and your team for that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful collaboration. Thank you.
Well, we're certainly in a bit of a busy and crazy world right now. And you're doing a great job kind of telling the stories of yourself and your brand as we go through this. But what some kind of questions that have been coming to me from members is, maybe they don't have a strong website right now, or they don't have a strong social media presence right now. And they're asking me, is now the time to get started with that?
Yeah, my short answer is yes. I know not all of us. I know it's been a strange time because for a second we were slower than we've ever been, and then a week later, and ever since the past 5 weeks, we've been busier than we've ever been. And I know just trying to work with and keeping our businesses afloat, or maybe making that plan for when things do open up again, it's really tolling in a lot of different ways, especially emotionally. But when it comes to starting a website, starting a social media presence, or maybe cleaning it up, right now is the time, because more than ever people are online. There's so many people that are home. There are numbers from so many different resources showing the increase of people just surfing the web, going on and spending time on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, some major platforms that we could talk about a little bit later. If you can and do, I would just recommend, even if it's just finding a couple hours for you to really sit down and get some of these things started. I would say it's important because it's a great way to stay connected, and you can continue to at least stay connected with maybe some of your typical audience and customer base, but you could also grow it beyond maybe the location that you are based within. So if you've never been online before, I think you'll be surprised at the results of how far and wide you can end up reaching. So I think one note to make is, and just because, and I'll take this whole kind of series of questions transparently, there is a challenge that we now face because so many more people are getting online and putting out their ads and their messaging across all different kinds of brands on social platforms, as well as putting out their websites. So a little bit later when we talk about maybe reach versus engagement and how we can get creative there, that would be a time to talk about that. But yes is the short answer.
Very good. And I think you covered the why in that as well.
Yeah.
How would you pick a social media platform for your business right now?
Yeah, I would say one of the first questions you want to ask yourself is really, who is what we call your audience, your target market. Really, I'm asking, who is your client or customer base? Who are these people? And when I'm saying who are they, I'm literally asking, how old are they? Is it men? Is it women? Where are they located? So really their demographics here. That helps make a lot of those decisions there. I kind of said before, some of the popular platforms you'll see, especially in our area and in NEPA, being utilized is, I would say Facebook is number one. You have Instagram, just considering that's very visual. So depending again on maybe if you're a food-based brand or a floral shop or something like that, you'll be able to you'll see a lot of Instagram being a good platform for you. LinkedIn, because that is primarily, especially let's say if you're doing business to business, or maybe your target market is C-suite level executives or something along those lines, or maybe it is college students, because those are actually two of the highest demographics on LinkedIn. It's two different ends of the spectrum. You have those executives, but also the students that are looking for, what is their next thing? What is their next job? What is their next internship? So I would say taking a look at those. I would say a lot of people talk about YouTube a lot. That's obviously going to be very video heavy. So it would depend on what your brand is and really what you're focusing on there, of whether or not we would recommend that that's something you get on. It's always, if you're making videos anyways, it's a great place because that does tie into, and which is a totally different conversation, but Google and your search engine optimization and all of those things. But again, I don't want to get too far into that. And not as popular locally, but another big platform is Twitter. You do typically find a lot more just political based things there. So again, that would be pretty specific depending on what your brand or your product or service is. If you're, again, I don't know exactly who's on the call today, but if your customers are younger, and I mean like maybe under 18 or in the college market right now, you're definitely going to see them on Instagram. You're going to see them on Snapchat. And I think TikTok is a thing right now. I downloaded it just to see what it was, and I'm realizing I'm a millennial, so I'm realizing that there's now platforms coming up that I'm not even familiar with, and I understand how that feels now. But I would say, to kind of maybe wrap this up and leave you with one suggestion, is if you're going to pick one to focus on, if let's say you have multiple, I would actually say for our area especially, Facebook is a great choice to start with. Familiarize yourself with it, and start getting connected, because some businesses even use that as in place of a website, because you can get so much information and stay so active there. So hope that answers that question.
That does. And I thought I would let you see kind of who is on the call now. We've been watching my screen
Awesome.
for a bit here. So we do have a little crowd with us this morning, and so you can get familiar with some names, and then we'll open it up for questions in a bit.
Wonderful.
What is the best way for businesses to contact their clients right now? So we talked a little bit about this, and we're talking, of course, about this a lot in the chamber world. But what do you think people are doing now? What's the most effective way to reach your clients?
Yeah, I think it's a blend. And again, I know I'm giving a lot of blanket answers, so I'm hoping that maybe things that I say or mention just but might resonate with some of you, or just feel totally not relevant. And I hope you just take that all knowing that just trying to provide as much insight as possible in this half an hour we have together. I would say it's a blend, depending on maybe where you left off before all of this happened. And I feel like if I could even take a step back further to kind of almost preface any of these responses or anything, is none of us have ever been in a time like this. So even with marketing, like it's kind of interesting, because in the past that we've been able, especially, Cool Creative, what we do is we spend all this time researching your market and your target demographic and learning who you are. But now simultaneously, all of us, even as marketing companies, are learning how to best market in something like this, because it's so unique and so different. But to answer your question more directly, I would say it's a blend. We're personally taking all different approaches between, if you have that email list, you could still email market. Now, I'm not saying blast out, and I think you have to be careful right now. I think it's getting a little bit easier, but especially when this all first happened in those first couple of weeks, nobody wanted to be sold to. Nobody was thinking about spending their money. And I think people are still having a hard time with thinking about spending too much money, just because it's so uncertain, and so many people obviously going on unemployment and things along those lines. But I more so mean in a relevant way. If I can share even specific examples that Cool Creative has done, all through April, we did a Staying Connected series, and I just put out all different videos. And then once a week, we would just share the week's worth of videos, whether it was shout outs for other businesses or Zoom interviews that I was doing with other local business owners, just ways to help people stay relevant and spread the word there. For some businesses, this may or may not be feasible, but direct phone calls, if you have a smaller client base, especially, picking up the phone and just really connecting with them. And then, of course, kind of referencing what we started this conversation around is if you have social media platforms, staying active there with updates, and also updates on your website. So I would say that blend, basically anything that you can do that's virtual and not in person is still relevant. But it's around that messaging, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. So.
Right. And I think you touched on a great point there. And I want to kind of reiterate that because it's not sales right now. This is, this marketing, sometimes people hear marketing and they hear sales, and marketing is not sales. So marketing is keeping your brand relevant, letting people know how you are, what you're doing, and what you're doing for them during this time. Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I probably shouldn't say something like, we barely call ourselves a marketing company. We purposely more so say creative agency and storytellers, because we understand the connotations that are directly tied to the word marketing. And things are different. Even before all of this happened, things are different. People don't want to be sold to. So yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were reaching out to your clients kind of one-on-one right now. What do you talk about during these calls, or an email to your client base?
So really, it for us, it started. The first thing I did in my role and to connect with all of our clients, even like new, old, kind of people that we were in the middle of putting contracts together with, I sent a simple check-in. It wasn't anything about like, oh, we need this payment, or oh, we need to get this signed and solidified. It was a legitimate, just like, hey, checking in, here for you. What do you need? Really just showing that we care, because we do. Because at the end of the day, we're humans connecting with humans. Throughout the past few weeks, it's really been updates on the impact. And what I mean by that is what kind of updates, or how have we been impacted? So we're home, but my entire team is working remotely the past 6 weeks now. So, making sure that people know, don't go to the office, because our entire building's locked. You're not even going to be able to get into the building to get to our office to begin with. Letting them know, again, depending on brand, organization, business, are you delivering or doing pickup? Or, I think I'm speaking a little bit more to maybe restaurants or even businesses that have, a curbside kind of pickup, maybe with different products and whatnot, but just giving updates in that entire realm. If you are open to some extent, how does that look, and how can people stay connected? And I think just maybe even tying back to the last thing I said with just showing you care, but, opening up that conversation, because, and I'll probably say this a few times, it's okay to not know all of the answers, because even people that are higher up making the decisions for us don't know all of the answers. We're really taking this week by week. But asking them, how can you be there for them, or the community, or the customers? That's an okay, I think, conversation to have, because I think it shows that right now, I think it would be silly to pretend that you're an expert to know how to navigate COVID-19, if I could say that, bluntly. So really just connecting on a human level is, I guess, how I would say all of this at the core.
Very good. And I think it is so important. And I think those that we have been in touch with, because we've been doing that, and I have to give Deb a lot of credit for it. She's been calling through a lot of our members. And I think one of the things, as I was doing it early on, was they just want someone to listen to, right? So many of us are feeling isolated and just want someone to talk to. So even if your role is not that in their lives, you could be that for 5 minutes and make that call, right?
Yeah.
So everything is so uncertain right now, and many businesses are struggling with what's a message on social media. Do you have suggestions about that? What do they say, right? Whether we're a chamber or a hair salon that's closed right now kind of indefinitely, because they're kind of not in this, everybody right now is kind of hoping to get to the yellow phase, right?
Yes.
But then there's still this whole group of businesses that aren't going to be able to open in the yellow phase either. So what would you say to those businesses who are kind of looking at this going, I don't know what our long-term plan can be? What should those messages be on social media right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think at the core, I think the first thing that comes to mind for some reason is just stay true, stay kind, stay honest. I think it's really easy, and especially on online, when you're home and you're frustrated, and because so many of us are, and that's okay. I would advise to try not to get too negative. I think it's okay to share it and you know, even express where things are at and provide those updates, but to try not to make it, I would just say stay true, stay honest, stay kind. And I think I just really focus on the stay kind part, because we do understand that it's frustrating in that sense. The more that you can just stay informative about your own updates related to your own business, I think that's really beneficial. I would say some messaging, this just popped in my head too, where in the meantime, I would imagine, you know, sharing what you're excited about when you do reopen. And again, we'll talk about a little bit about engagement, but you know, ask your clients or customer base, what are they most excited about? And keeping them almost, you know, longing for you to reopen and supporting you and whatnot. Like, I think that's okay. From another kind of angle, and not necessarily tied directly to that, but I whether you have other partners or business friends or owners or things like that, I think supporting one another and giving those shout outs. So maybe some of you might open your doors a little bit sooner. Can you come up with collaborative ways to maybe help, you know, help your friend, your business owner a few doors down that can't open for maybe another 3 to 4 weeks? Is there something you can do that wouldn't, of course, be detrimental to you or your cash flow or things like that when you do open the door, but a way to help spread the word that, you know, stay tuned, stay connected. They'll be open soon enough. And I don't have something specific there, but that's just kind of something that came to mind too. So I hope that answers your question for that.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. Just again, kind of giving them ideas on how to be out there, how to put themselves out there during this time. One of the things I'm seeing is sharing about what your staff are doing, right? So if your staff are taking additional trainings that are going to be better for your clients down the road, share that, right?
Yes.
If you are updating your place of business with some additional things to protect them again in the long run, share that.
Yes.
And then the other great thing I've seen too has been, and we have Erica Rogler on the phone or on the call here this morning, and she is the executive director of our Dietrich Theater. They're doing a great job with introducing their staff. And so they're telling a little bit about, you know, who the staff person is and then their favorite movie.
Yes.
Right. So to
I love
keep
that.
people connected to the movies. Right.
Yes.
So I think that's a great way to utilize your social media and to stay marketing at this time.
Yeah.
Even though some of those movies are old movies, but again, people are sitting home, right? So it's a great way to say, oh, I haven't seen that. Let's go check that out.
I love that. Yeah. Good job there.
Yeah, and another plug for the Dietrich real quick is they are doing a virtual film festival. So I don't have the details. It's on the website. I did see that on their social media, but check out the Dietrich's virtual film festival because I think that'll be pretty cool.
Awesome.
So in this movement toward online sales and e-commerce, it's really big right now, but it can also be extremely overwhelming. So what steps should a business take to get started with something like that?
For sure, for sure. I mentioned earlier just being transparent through the whole thing. The reality is for some, it might feel overwhelming no matter what. Even if, let's say, you had 2 whole days to work on it, it just depends on your knowledge and understanding and what's in your wheelhouse. So as much as we say, you know, don't call your nephew or your cousin or this or that to help you do certain things, I think right now you could do those things. You don't have to call an expert. If you want to call somebody to kind of help walk you through, that's totally okay. So with that in mind, my first thing is just set some time aside if you're going to do this. Maybe if weekends have been a little bit easier for you, or if there is a day during the week now that you can just really sit down with it. It's not something that you're gonna, you know, get up and running in 30 minutes or less. And that's the reality of it. But it is one of those things where it will benefit you even beyond, like when your doors are back open, if you can get online and it's something that works for you, I think you'll see the benefits of it long term. So set aside that time. I'll drop just a platform that works really well for a lot of people. It's called Shopify. And I know, Gina, you said there's a way to share some of these resources later, but it's a trusted platform, and it's pretty, plug and play like a lot of those website platforms are. If you need to get, even if you have a different website that was built and ran by somebody else, if you need to get a one-page, e-commerce selling your products page set up, you could still do this from the on the side and integrate it later if needed. You'll need things like your branding materials. So at the very least, your logo to get it up on there so people recognize, where they're at when you do have it. If, like I said, if you don't have an existing domain name or website to build it off of, you will need, and again, I don't want to go too in depth, but you'll need that domain name. And a lot of times but again, I'll just use Shopify as the primary example here. A lot of times you can get what it's called hosting right through that, and it could be incorporated in the cost. So it really helps streamline. A lot of times those platforms will even just say, it could be shop dot, WyomingCountyChamber.com, and it helps you put together that domain name. And then especially, so let's say, I'm assuming you're putting this together because you're selling products. So if you have photos of your products, or, set aside a little bit of extra time to get the photos of your products. And I would just recommend them being as high resolution as possible. What's, again, okay right now is, I guess the way to say is expectations are lower. So you don't necessarily need to have, the best looking angles of every product and whatnot, as long as it's not super blurry and maybe, facing the wrong way, that could work. Some other main elements here, and I hope I'm going slow enough just in case anybody is, jotting things down, is if you're going to be doing this online platform and you're going to be accepting payments through the platform, just knowing at least your direct business banking account information, or if you have a PayPal account, that makes it a lot easier to set up as well. And then making those decisions, is it an online platform where you just want to showcase your products, but then not necessarily sell directly through, which is okay, and because you're going to maybe do a curbside pickup, or meet people halfway, or a lot of businesses are delivering bags right to doors and sending a text once it's there, to obviously with the social distancing and everything. You can make all of those decisions as well as in depth. I think what's really cool about I think I'm actually flowing right into the benefits here of selling online, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But okay. You really end up, you're going to reach an audience you might have never reached before, which I think is really great. People that maybe never trek up to Wyoming County for whatever reasons it might be, just maybe depending on whether they're living or located or transportation means. Again, with that whole delivering, you have those options of maybe you can deliver drop-offs halfway, you can offer that pickup. I just think that that's really cool that you'll be able to extend your reach there. I think that what it also shows is your willingness to adjust, get creative, get flexible in these times. And I think it shows a loyalty to your consumers, your client base, because you're finding ways to continue to serve them and connect with them, especially with your existing customers. I think they'll see that those efforts go and feel as though it's almost going above and beyond to make sure that you're able to stay connected. And then, down at the core, if possible for you right now, and you're able to do these things, and it might not be necessarily anywhere near where your sales used to be, but I think right now for so many of us, something is better than nothing, even if it's helping cover a couple of those utility bills or whatever it might be. I think it helps keep you relevant at the core as well. So even if it's maybe you're not making tons of money off of the creative products that you're or the way you're getting creative to get your products out there, it's keeping you front of mind for people for when the doors do open again. So
Certainly. And I want to be aware of time. So I would like to open it up to questions. I do have a few more for Holly, but I wanted to see if anyone has a question for Holly. You can unmute your phone or your computer by clicking in the right-hand corner. There's a little microphone box. So if you do have a question, you can unmute yourselves and ask Holly any questions that you may have. And if not, we'll keep going. But I wanted to give that opportunity. Oh, go ahead, Erica.
Sure. Do you think Shopify would work for selling like online concession items if we decide to do like curbside concession before we're able to open inside our building?
That's a good question. I think that do you have a specific reservation about it, or are you just asking in general? Is it because it's a new platform?
Just asking in general, because our current POS doesn't allow us to do online concessions.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that you look into it. And even if this is appropriate, I'd be happy to connect with you, Erica, after, and we can walk through some more specifics around it, or maybe any questions that might come up as you're looking at it. No problem there. So I think yes is the short answer. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anybody else have anything for Holly? We're going to get into some of these. So Facebook and other platforms have various metrics or insights, they might call them, where we have reach and engagement and a lot of words that, frankly, some of us who are not as technically savvy and maybe aren't in this world every day don't quite understand. So right now, what should we really be looking for? Is it that reach, or is it engagement? And how can we improve upon these things right now?
For sure. If it's okay, I'm going to start with just like even a little bit of an overview of the definitions of reach and engagement here. I even made some notes for myself because it's one of those things that I know a lot of people will ask about. And so reach, at its core, it measures how many people have seen your post. So literally how many people has it reached. So if everybody on this on this call here, I think there's about 15 or so of us, you would get 15 counts of reach here. That doesn't necessarily mean that we liked it, that we commented on it, that we shared it. It means that for a second or two, it was on our feed. We looked at it. The algorithm could tell that we didn't scroll super fast past it, but that it did hit us. So I hope that makes sense there. It's a great number to consider if you are trying to just increase the amount of people or fans that your business has. Reach is still important, even though engagement is preferred, I think, because engagement a lot of times ties more directly to ROI for people. But never forget the importance of just general brand awareness, especially during a time like this. So don't feel bad if your reach, or if you see that your reach is lower, you do want to get that up as well. But to kind of talk about engagement here, that more so. If you're trying to, like, I guess I kind of already said it, but where you're trying to ultimately build more of a relationship with the people that are maybe on these social platforms, and turn them into customers, maybe increase their loyalty. Let's see, I have a couple notes here, like ultimately purchasing your product. That's really showing how many clicks, comments, likes, shares, et cetera, that you get. And again, I know that one's really important. So to kind of go here, and then also with the timing and whatnot, to talk about how can you improve the engagement, there's a handful of things I can go through right here, and I don't want to go too quickly, but I don't want to take up too much of your time also in the morning here. But a lot of times, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, genuinely, but if you can try to craft your posts with your customers or clients in mind, as opposed to your business in mind. And what I mean by that is just almost like put yourself outside of the window and think about what are they thinking about. And sometimes an exercise I just practice with myself or with a new client is if I was thinking about, we have a wine client, and it's like, what would I want to know before going into and purchasing their wine? Not necessarily, sometimes there's certain numbers or analytics or things that we get really amped up about in, from our perspective, which are definitely helpful to share, but it's not necessarily something that's going to help, a customer make a decision. So just thinking about things like that, to engage with them, really think about starting a conversation with your post, maybe asking those questions, getting them interacted. I think I referenced earlier, ask them what do they miss most, and have them maybe comment or share photos from a previous experience, or what, again, depending on your brand or organization, what you do. Get them involved. You can highlight them. You can highlight customers. Maybe there are a few people that just had great raving reviews before all of this happened, because what happens there is people get excited to see themselves, and that's okay. It's an ego thing, and we all have that. They'll end up sharing it, and it will reach their all of their connections, things like that. And I think I mentioned it earlier as well, is what will help with the engagement right now is to collaborate with other businesses. I think the reality is we know we're all in this together at this point. So maybe you can find creative ways to help benefit one another. Whether it's just having conversations or like right now you're recording the Zoom call. We can all do that. You can get the free version of Zoom and whatnot. And you can have those conversations and just download them and then share them directly to Facebook as needed. You want to be visual. So if you do have pictures or videos that you can post, I think that would really help for people to just stay connected with you there. I'm trying to see a couple other things here. I think that just because it's like a longer list and I know it's already 9:47, but I guess those are the top 3 things I would kind of share there. And if you have any further questions or thoughts, I can expand further, but.
Sure. So I have one last question to wrap up, but I want to one more time put it out there for anybody else who might have a question for Holly right now. So I don't want to overlook the fact that we do have an expert on the line here. Does someone have a question?
Oh, I see a chat. Let's see.
Yeah.
I know it varies by the offer, advertiser, etc., but what is average for reach versus engagement, and what do you suggest for frequency? How many times must a customer be reached to move to the level walking to their store and or buying online? I do feel bad. So the response is it varies so much to the point where the average. I mean, it depends on how old your business is, how old your social platforms are in existence, how consistent you've been. I know we didn't really get into even how to utilize the platforms once you have them. So maybe let me plant the seed of, if you're gonna create a Facebook page, don't just post once and then wait 5 weeks to post again. You're gonna wanna really come up with a schedule there. But you could see averages being, hundreds of reach and maybe just in the tens of engagement versus, thousands and tens of thousands of reach and thousands of engagements. Again, I know you've prefaced it with, that it varies, and I'm sorry I can't give a more direct answer there. The rule of, let's see. Okay, somebody else had asked a question. So how many times must a customer be reached? In the past, it's said that 7 times, and that could be in various different ways. So maybe it's from seeing your email blast that went out and that call that you made last week, and then the social media Facebook post that you made, and then when they were Google searching and your website came up because of the specific thing that they were. So all of these things can count. Or maybe it's seeing a various posts every other time. It just helps you stay relevant. So 7 has been the lucky number. They do say it actually is a little bit harder now because of how easily content and things like that we're just kind of flooded with it, and it has increased. So it could get a little bit harder. So I think, making those offers that are appropriate and, follow the Facebook rules. And again, I'm using Facebook as the primary platform example here. Doing things that are a little bit out of the box or a bit more creative, doing giveaways. I know it's almost like some of these suggestions are a little bit harder right now because many of us aren't in a place to do these things, but where you can and when you can, as creative as you can get, that's really what's going to help hook people a little bit faster, if that kind of helps answer that question. Then there is one more question here. What are your thoughts on tailoring content to the social network, Facebook versus Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, etc.? Yeah, so again, it comes down to demographics and who you're really speaking to. Facebook, you're going to see millennials, Generation Y, boomers. So you can have video is king, they say, across a lot of these platforms because it's visual, it's appealing. If it can catch your attention in the first few seconds, you're going to get increased engagement and potentially increased ROI. Facebook is a place that you can spend a little bit more time, I think, with sharing information. And depending on Instagram, Instagram is more visual, but you don't necessarily want to put too many words or anything on graphics. Like when I say visual, I mean like a straightforward photo of a plate of food when I'm thinking about a restaurant or something, or a straightforward photo of an individual. A lot of times if it feels too salesy on Instagram, or if it feels like a a created ad, it's not going to get the reach and make the connection that you're hoping for. Twitter, I mean, it outlines its own rules. I know with business Twitter accounts, you have about 280 characters. So it helps you actually craft and get better at really being able to get your message out in a shorter way, which is kind of the elevator pitch, which I think is actually a good thing. Or what's nice about all of these things is you could also, and I would highly advise, with any of your posts that are more call to action, you can link back to your website or something relevant or a relevant link, things like that. I hope that kind of answers your question. I know that these are in the chat, so I can't really ask at this point, but
no, I think they were good answers to the questions, and certainly Holly's information is on our website if you want to follow up or have direct questions for her about a specific social media platform. I'm sure she'd be happy to get with you.
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, I'm giving such like these 10,000 foot levels, and I'm trying not to get too specific, but I would be happy, literally just one-on-one time, like literal no strings attached. Anyone, please feel free to email, give me a call. I'd be happy to spend that time and learn more about your business and have this conversation. So
great. And just to wrap things up today, Holly, what is the most important message you would like to share with fellow business owners right now as they navigate through this time and their marketing?
Honestly, and I hope it's okay to say, I think it's perfectly okay not to have all of the answers right now, to not know when your doors are going to reopen, because we're all in this very unique shared experience at the moment. And most individuals really do understand the uncertainty. And I mean, individuals, including our customers, client base, et cetera, our community members. The best we can do is, in some cases, is following the mandates and the orders of the governor, and staying as up to date with the infos and updates and changes that, although they might change week to week, just depending on what's going on, just trying to stay as up to date as possible. You know, we're probably going to cross paths with some frustrations from people along the way. And you know, I would just say, keep in mind that their frustrations are most likely more so tied not directly to you, but rather the situation that we're in right now. So to kind of go back to my little saying before, but maybe a little bit differently, to just stay kind, stay genuine, stay human, and just stay safe. And, you know, whether keeping you safe, your employees safe, all of that, that's the best you can do, because we need to be healthy and we need to be here to be able to reopen when the time comes. So
definitely. Well, thank you so much for today, Holly. We appreciate it. We are ending our restart phase of our Restart, Rebound, Rebuild series this week. I am working on 2 guests for our last 2 sessions, and we hope to announce those later today. So watch your emails for those. And Holly, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. And we hope that you have a great day, stay healthy, and I hope your staff are doing well.
thank you. Thank you for the time today, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.